morning, gamer, and welcome back to Mechabellum for Vanguard Tournament Asia. This is Weekend Tournament Asia number 72, and we're going to have a great field. There is one slot left in the Launch Clash tournament. That should be filled today. And joining me in the broadcast booth is clintleetwood.
I gotta ask, any soft predictions with that slot being filled? Who do you think's going to take it? We've got some crazy names already signed up for the tournament today.
Well, some of the top ones, Rooster and Zimp, have already filled it, so they're in the spoiler role. But
Ooh.
I like napping. Woot, Dillo, and then Rice is the other one that I think has a shot at it today.
Yeah, I think that's man. Rice, he's like, I feel like he drops off every now and again, and then comes back, and always has a very strong performance in return. Rooster,
Zimp, Steel Sane, Flower Fairy, Blue Hair have all booked their places with the win too. And who else? Apucci and Dachshund, of course. So that's the 7. And then there's one slot open today. Ladies and gentlemen, start your sledgehammers. Let's take the napping versus Measim, I think. Welcome to Weekend Tournament Asia number 72. The Vanguard tournament. With me in the booth is clintleetwood. Thanks for joining me, Clint. We've got I Like Napping, who can qualify for that Launch Clash tournament. He's going to be near side blue with Measim far side red. How are you doing this morning, my friend?
I'm doing pretty all right. Always excited to talk about Mechabellum, and curious to know what you think of these opening drafts. We have I Like Napping with Speed Spec and Crawler Stormcaller developing into our clients, and Measim with Farseer Spec and Crawler Sledge. Who are you going to give the edge to here in these early rounds?
I am loving Farseer, so I think the question here is, can I Like Napping take advantage of the Stormcaller start to put some tempo pressure on Measim? Measim only has 3,600 hit points, so this is an opportunity to get some early wins, have the Stormcaller survive for 400 points plus whatever else is alive, and get Measim down under 3,000 pretty quickly. And hopefully be able to survive and turn this before a whole bunch of Farseers come online.
Yeah, and it also happens to be the case, right? If Measim does drop below like 3,000 and into the, or maybe even into the 2,000s range, if Napping's able to secure enough early rounds, right? That realistically is just one bad late game round.
Right.
So you have this like constant mental pressure of can't mess up.
Yeah. Don't F it up.
Yeah. Okay, first unit selection or reinforcement card selection coming in. Instant skip from Measim.
Did not let me those. Needed.
Yeah.
I gotta figure he's thinking I needed to unlock and buy storms. And you can see he already has unlocked storms in the background. So that's what he skipped for.
Pretty classic Measim move, honestly.
I'd like to see, I was going to say, I'd like to see Napping take those wasps, because there's no anti-wasp presence, and if Measim does go for the Stormcallers, he hasn't unlocked something that can shoot down the wasps. So I Like Napping has a guaranteed round win by taking that card, and that contributes to continuing to pile on the pressure.
Very true. Even if it doesn't get this early tower cheese, the reality, right, is that any amount of damage that Napping can guarantee early is going to contribute to that idea that we proposed earlier, right, which is like you can't mess it up later on. But not only do we get the Stormcallers removed on the left, but we also get that early tower, which means this isn't just going to be a small victory from that Wasp group. It's going to be a pretty overwhelming round victory with everything else on the field.
Yeah, a solid thumping for sure.
Yeah.
Yikes.
And this is where I feel like, as Farseer spec, I start to sweat. How about you?
Yeah, this would be worrisome. You don't want to give a player of Napping's quality this kind of tempo advantage. But now Measim has the Farseer arriving. He's got 600. He can buy 2 more of them. Or not, because he has the unit reinforcement round. And he gets the Marksman. This is Measim's favorite piece, favorite unit, I would say. He'll just run a backline of Marksmen and get to carry Mark at some point. So he's taken the second Farseer and 1 more Crawler. I'd imagine the Crawler goes in the back left, yep. And the 2 Farseers are now in a flank screening position. So there won't be any more cheesy Wasp or Phoenix flanks.
Yeah, this is just like a very, I would say, like, standard in like strict development, right? It's storms to answer the ground. Every standard player usually needs like 2 to 4 per game. You develop Marksmen to both cover the flank but also apply pressure in the middle, and then the Farseers are there as a good support unit and solid DPS.
Right.
So I think if I were to take a guess at the board right now, right, I think Measim has like a real shot at winning this, but Napping did a little tricksy move here and taking the range early on for the Marksman. So that might be maybe a little bit of a game changer here if we can chew through some of these units fast enough.
But it certainly is a good answer to the Farseer proper to have better range, and then it also answers the Marksman and puts them on par with the Stormcallers. But come down to Measim winning on the left side tower. Gets the left side tower debuff, and that lets these 2 storms on the right finish out the surviving Marksman. So Napping is down to 4,000 hit points. Measim's at 2,600, and we get to round 5. Or round 4 even, sorry.
Yeah, and Incendiary Bomb coming out for both players, a very strong, I would say, like, typical take in this scenario, right? Both players have to make a lot of distance and cover a lot of ground. Can't really shield everything. Did you see anything else worth taking in that last pack?
No.
If you were in one of these players' positions?
No, I think this is a good choice for both of them, and not surprised to see Napping shield first. One of the tips that I figured out at some point pretty early was, if you're going to play the see a spell, play around the spell game, which you pretty much have to, it helps me to play around the spell as the first thing that I do, not the last thing that I do.
No, I think it's a great piece of advice. I used to play a lot of Magic the Gathering, and the way I've always heard that talked about is you always do the things you must do first, and then you worry about the rest of your turn.
Makes good sense to me.
Both players shielding. Pretty smart stuff. But I think Measim still just has a little too much beef on the ground.
Now he's added 1 more storm, right? Which is making a big difference on the right side. It's why he was able to punch through towers and ultimately, or shields even, ultimately get tower and then just about clean out the round, but Napping wins the round with 1 unit left. We're still at about 4,000 to 2,600.
Very true. It's so cool to see how these higher level players and these higher MMRs can like really mitigate mid-game losses like that.
Right.
To the point where they're just like almost ties or
yeah, they come
just
out
50
so
damage. Yeah.
I am surprised Measim skipped the improved firepower and amp core with the Farseers back there, because those can get out of control if you were to start giving them amp core or improved firepower control and get some techs on them, they can really scale pretty quickly, and these are the only ways to increase the damage output of the Farseer, which is why I've been liking them.
No, I completely agree. I think I think like the breakpoint that I'm always looking for with Farseers, right, is like level 3, and you know, getting an item, one, helps the unit like superficially get there faster, but also just get there faster.
Right.
I feel like an important thing to note here, right, is that Napping maintained a shield and Measim did not. So what we might end up seeing is the left side kind of eking out the next round like it kind of did previously. But Measim goes ahead and tries to fix his shield break issues by slamming down 2 more storms and developing into fire callers.
It's 1 more storm. He had 3 last round.
Oh, my apologies.
The new one. And the new one is on the shield break side, needed, as you said. So, and he's also gone into a fairly heavy amount of arc lights at this point, which is surprising. I would have expected to see him go more marksman, just from knowing Measim's style. Of course, for those that don't know him, Measim is one of the game devs, and along with Bearleg, probably the 2 that are on ladder and in tournaments the most frequently, the most well-known, perhaps. Bearleg does say that he's one of the lowest MMRs in the office, because of course the whole dev team has to play a 10 in order to be. I mean, you have to play just to test things. You might as well play against somebody, right?
Very true. Very true. Huge pivot coming out from Napping, though. We got double AM War Factory this early in the morning.
He took 1,700 hit points of damage last round and said, "Not again, my friend." He sells out of one of the marksmen to fund this. So he's sold out of a teched and leveled marksman to go into the War Factories.
It kind of makes sense to me what Napping here is doing, right? We have a good chunk of our chaff just getting deleted by, you know, this fire color shenanigans, right? So if we can just delay that or even stop it, but also, right, Measim's main DPS has been Farseer, so we can also turn that off. Like, we are in a good spot. Some late aggro coming out, though, with this mobile beacon, the double War Factory right at your tower. How do you feel about the most recent changes to War Factory? You had a couple buffs come out for this unit.
I think War Factory might be a little over-tuned at the moment. And, I think it was actually in a pretty good slot. I'm not sure why it was wiring the buff, actually. I like the...
I completely agree.
I kind of like the fact that, where is it? Efficient maintenance is as efficient as it is. There it is. But I don't think it should be costing a simple 50 at this point. I think it should be a much harder decision in terms of whether or not to take it.
Yeah.
Measim takes a melting point, so it gets an answer to it, having survived the round with a whopping 300 hit points. Eek.
Yeah, Napping takes 1,700 and says, I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah, almost gets the knockout, right? Like, that's how
right on the spot
this was. Now the question is, can Measim stop it?
And this is what we were sort of talking about earlier, right? Which is like this idea that if Napping can get Measim in like the 2,000 range, like this is all that needs to happen. One bad round, and then suddenly Measim's back is completely against the wall, and he can no longer make any mistake.
Right. So Napping has added 3 steel balls. Measim has added 3 melting points with range. I'm curious to see, he does not actually run steel ball production. He's running sledgehammer production, which is an odd attack in that a lot of people are running Steel Ball because you can use Steel Ball to go to MechDiv as your chaff generation, right? People will ask, why doesn't a War Factory generate chaff? And the answer is it does. It just takes Steel Ball into MechDiv. So he's
right. You have to jump through a couple of hoops here.
Yeah, but since he's running,
there it is too.
Since he's running Sledgehammer production, he doesn't actually get the benefit of generating the Steel Balls. So.
If I'm not mistaken, isn't Sledgehammer Prod the largest like rod unit count that
yes,
it
it's
makes?
The largest rod unit count it makes.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're just looking at the units without thinking about the other text that you're going to have on the units, it certainly looks like it might be the better chaff production. But because the Steel Balls are fast, you guarantee that they're going to run out in front and tank the, you know, in this case, the melting point. And if they can turn into crawlers, then you've got a chaff problem that you're creating for somebody. And turns out, napping does not need that. The 2 War Factories, enough to KO Measim here in round 1 of this tournament. So I like napping, who is 1 tournament win away from qualifying for the last launch clash tournament. Makes it through to round 2. What do you think about the board? Any comments?
Yeah, I think what you're seeing right there is that 10% HP nerf that happened, I think it was in 0.8. No, it was slightly after 0.8.3 for the melting point, and the most recent attack damage buff, and for the War Factory, right? You know, Measim's board makes sense in the idea that you know, melting points counter the War Factory, and you know, everything else should kind of take care of itself. But you know, it's the only thing the War Factory needs to do is just get on one of your towers or get on one of your melting points, and the dynamic seems to change pretty drastically.
Right.
How about you?
Only thing I would say is it felt premature to me that Measim took Missile Interceptor, because there are only the 2 storms out on the board. And if he doesn't take Missile Interceptor, maybe he could afford to throw down EMP. And if he can land EMP on the Steel Balls, this last round might have gone a little bit differently. It's my thinking.
Yeah.
And so, but he really couldn't afford to do that after taking the Missile Interceptor, and, you know, to drop out 3 melting points, he couldn't also take Electromagnetic Barrage to get 2 techs, and buy 2 giants was going to be too expensive for him. So he was kind of handcuffed himself, I think, by taking this Missile Interceptor on round 6 into what turned out to be the War Factories. Green Mountains beats Arrow. We had B-Man beats Andros. I Like Napping, you just saw beat Measim. Player I think of as 7 is actually Prince Poggy beat Ferginant. Jota gets a win. We've got a player named What who beats Yes Win Big. Argoneer wins. This is, I think, Single True beats Unrivaled Super Hottie. So Super Hottie is not going to be advancing this tournament. Zillalag beat Rice, so that is another one of the possible players that could advance getting knocked out in round 1. Li Jinghong beats Armeria. Flix, oh god, Coin and Rat are really close. Flix beats Bearlike, very nicely done. Lord Clankariat beats Skay. So we're getting a whole bunch of really good matches in round 1 of these tournaments. Now that these tournaments mean something, we've got a ton of turnout. Play Archer beats the 7-11. Hawkins Space beats Godog. And Godog is one of the invited players, so we'll be in the Launch Clash tournament regardless of performance here. Dillo beats Void. We've got Zemp over River Skende. Zemp, the Americas champion, already qualified with that win. Rooster gets a win. Rooster and I had been co-casting Asia. Rooster said he was feeling reinvigorated to play right now, and I think you can see that in the final score there. And at the top of the group, this is Death is the Order. I believe that's StarCraft Panda, folks.
This round 1 is pretty stacked for for this tournament so far.
Yeah, having something at stake where we know there's going to be qualification for a cash prize tournament really changed the stakes and drew out a whole bunch of really good players, and I'm excited to see it. At the bottom half of the table, if you don't know, the tournament is split into, in our case, we're going to have Advanced Group 1 and Rookie Group 1 with 100 participants each. In the first round, the top 50 face each other high versus low, and the bottom 50 face each other adjacent, so 51 versus 52, 53 versus 54. So around the bottom half, we have Crazy Fish, Icy D getting wins, along with, this player is a Meow Meow C doesn't move. So Meow Meow gets the win. Hotspeed Yakamaru. We've got a couple, let's see, Aoshan beats Sinwa. Gunja Star gets a win over Lex. Invictum, Krog, and Momoro loses out to... Sorry, we're doing Google Lens Translate here. Loses to a winning with mixed points. Teddy gets a round 1 win. Congrats.
Hey, shoutouts.
Yep. He's been grinding a lot as well.
Man, he's been streaming too. It's cool to see.
Yep. Royal Ice Cool beats Ferret Master. Soup Pirate gets a win. That's a long time player. iGod beats Anita. Whooped GG beats Symbios. My Time of Dying gets a win. Simple Little Bear wins. Cute Egg Fried Rice wins. A Russian player, who's that? How does that one translate? Total Noob. I don't believe you are a total noob, sir. Total Noob wins. Blunted Baboon wins. Thunder beats I Hate POS Carries. Cypher Shot gets a win. Below Zero gets a win. Lavamancer, Eoz, and Strong Wizard will close out the winners here. So we are through to round 2. Shiroha beat Esper Lion. Around to see Steel Sing, it does close out and get the win there. Looks like we'd have Hawkins Space versus Crazy Fish, Lord Clinkariat versus ICD, Coin versus Meow Meow C.
I love watching a coin game. He plays so much differently than me, and I think he is just a lot of fun to watch personally.
Welcome to round 2 of Vanguard Tournament Asia. We've got Coin, near side blue, and Meow Meow C, far side in red. And as we can see from the chat, they are going headbutt at the moment. Coin took Elite Specialist with Arclight and Steel Balls. Meow Meow C, you can see they're gentlemen to each other. One of the things I really enjoy about the community in general is the amount of respect in this community, in the way that players play each other. Of course, if you're going to play a competitive 2-player or a competitive 1v1 game, you want good people to play against so that you enjoy the match whether you win or lose, rather than needing to have a win to get an enjoyment out of it. And, being polite to your opponent is one way to achieve that. However, I am going to turn the chat off so we don't get a spoiler as to when the match might be over. We did get the spoiler that they were going to headbutt each other, and here they are.
Yeah, both players electing to do some ASIM aggro. These headbutt situations are, I think, so stressful to navigate. Is there any rules of thumb that you make the decision on how to navigate these scenarios, or are you just kind of flying by the seat of your pants as well?
Oh, I'm making it up as I go along every match. I don't tend to... I don't enjoy playing a standardized build or a standardized approach, so I'm really looking for wherever I can find any individual advantage in a given match. I want to make it up as I go. For a long time, I didn't even have standard positionings that I would get to. I was going to make up my round 1 formation every match. I've kind of gotten to a bit of, like, okay, at the level that I'm at now, I sort of have to have some optimized positions. But Choine wins round 1. That drops Meow Meow C to 4,100 hit points. Choine's up at 5,400. Meow Meow C has the speed specialist and didn't get any benefit from that in the headbutt situation. Elite Hacker would be an interesting choice in a steel ball headbutt, because Hacker and steel ball go together really nicely. And when you're this close to each other, you could actually give up the range, right? The Assault Stormcaller wouldn't have hurt anywhere near as much. Players don't think about these things necessarily, but a headbutt like this is pretty much the perfect time for Assault Storms.
No, I completely agree. We don't really need the range, and we want the extra tanking. It's pretty significant.
Right.
The other thing that I think that I would expect to see out of both players here pretty early on is a Wraith. I think Wraith is like the key to these headbutt matchups, and both players can benefit, greatly from using steel balls. Natural pairing right there between those two units.
Right. And the reason that's a natural pairing is the ranges. Steel ball is one of the few units with lower range than the Wraith. So you get the steel ball out in front, and it tanks for the Wraiths. The Wraith doesn't get shot down as much. And of course, the Wraith providing a degen beam from above protects the steel ball in return. So
Absolutely.
One of the few units that actually pairs really nicely with Wraith in that way, without the Wraith having to take range. And of course, range plus degen, it starts to get expensive. So that's why Queen said that there. Both players
absolutely.
Both players have a level in the steel balls. The Choine at 4,900, Meow Meow C at 4,100. There's the improved Wraith. Man, did Clint call it? Choine seeing the same thing. Of course, Meow Meow C went for the much cheaper option. I'm going to drop a Rhino Assault on the back line. Choine has that.
Another thing that we
go ahead.
Apologies. Another thing that we maybe didn't talk about just yet is Meow Meow C slamming out Charge Shot for his Arc Lights round 2. Kind of a smart idea in my mind, right? Mainly because of how Arc Lights kind of struggle clearing crawlers of a higher level, but Charge Shot kind of uniquely fixes that, but also very handedly deals with level 1 steel balls or level 2 steel balls if the Arc Light is at the same level.
Right. So Choine's turn here, he's playing as Elite Specialist, so it's an improved Wraith at level 2 with 30,000 hit points. There is no anti-air, so this Rhino falling is not going to matter at all. The question is just how much damage can we get before the Rhino hits the tower? Can we stay alive with a couple of other units on the ground? There was a flank with a couple of crawlers. That's not going to amount to much underneath the Wraith either. But yeah, this is going to go down to just the Wraith.
Yeah, and it's a little spooky here from Meow Meow's side, right? Because there is a couple leveled Arc Lights that will be feeding a bunch of experience into this Wraith. And if a level 2 improved Wraith was already scary enough and kind of hard to deal with, a nearly level 3 improved Wraith certainly will shake you up.
Yeah, at 30,000 hit points, this thing is beefier than an Overlord already. At 45,000, you're starting to look at wait, that's a flying fortress.
True.
Meow Meow C does get 4 level 2 marksmen. You gotta figure that is the answer here. And Choine adds a pair of level 2 Phoenix. Has a Phoenix running straight towards the far side tower, I would say. So it has an unprotected tower run.
Oh. Yeah. I think a smart thing here from both players, right, is both players respecting this early marksman drop, this round 4 drop with, either double level 2 Phoenixes or 4 level 1 marksmen. Such a strong amount of deploys, right? Essentially, Choine, if he had the option to, or if he wanted to, could go for 5 deploys this round. and Meow Meow C could go for 7 deploys this round. And, you know, deploys are king in this game, right? They can amount to tempo and some capacity. They speed up the game. And
here is a critical buy for this round. Meow Meow C throws down 1 marksman on the far side. And that is going to be, you know, because he's given them all anti-air to handle the Wraith. That's fixed the problem I was talking about where the Wraith has shorter range, or has longer range than the steel balls. The marksman will shoot over the steel balls and take out the Wraith first, but it also means that this level 1 over here is going to handle the pair of level 2 Phoenix, level himself up, and just shut down Choine's attack on the weak side tower. So a really critical buy from Meow Meow C there. Something that might have looked like a throwaway to a lot of players. So Meow Meow C wins round 4, coin down to 4,500. Meow Meow C's at 37.68. Stakes-wise, both of these players...
Both players going for shield airdrop.
Yeah, I like that into the headbutt, but it's tough with the steel balls, right? As the figure the steel balls are going to just get a lock on it and knock things down. Choine's got a pack of steel balls up to level 3.
And interestingly enough, we see Choine going for more Wraiths. How do you feel about that into 4 level 2, well, now 1 level 3 AA spec marksman?
He's gonna need range first to get the steel balls out in front, and that's what he's done, right? So the problem that I've got is not the buy, but the deployment. He needs to have something 40 meters in front of it in order for this marksman to target the thing in front on the ground rather than the Wraith. And I think right now they're going to be targeting, because it's showing me that it's targeting this pack of crawlers. It's actually going to be targeting the Wraith right off the rip. This marksman, for example. This one won't, this one won't, this one won't, but this marksman on the left is going to have a immediate lock. The same as this marksman on the far right has an immediate lock on this guy. Although he does not because of the flank. And I was wrong about this guy. Choine's positioning is perfect. He's got it.
I think it changes slightly if he clicks range, Meow Meow C, that is. Round start unit targeting is a little weird, I have noticed, and you can kind of exploit it, so we'll have to see if that ends up happening next round.
Okay. What have you noticed? Like, can you describe that a little bit more specifically for viewers?
Yeah, so specifically, when there is a ongoing clash in the middle of a match, the retargeting priority of like AA spec on either wasps or marksman doesn't behave in the same way that at unit start. So it feels like if there is, or sorry, at round start. And by that I mean when there is like an ongoing clash, like the units will prioritize that stuff in front of them usually. But at round start, I've noticed that if you always have like a similar setup to that clash, the unit targeting always prioritizes the air unit. For example, if you have a marksman like 4 paces to the right or left of your tower on the flank, you just can't play a boat there ever because they can click AA spec and it'll always target the boat. So you have to then like place wasps in front. You can play around with it in testing grounds. I'm not doing a great job at explaining it, but it is definitely something I've noticed in play 2 sometimes, and have played 2 against Choine.
And so you're saying because this moved into the radius after round start, that's why it got picked up. And if he can change it by adding range so that the Wraith is within the range plus AA at round start, then the Wraith might have been the priority target.
Yeah, the Wraith would then be the priority target. That is my understanding of how that interaction works.
Cool.
But yeah, that's what I've seen.
That's a good explanation. Instead of going for DJ, Choine has gone for 8 guns, so he is really leaning into the Wraiths as not just my chaff player, these are going to be my DPS. We're going to be up here, we're going to tear through your front lines. And it does actually get that far side tower. The oil over here isn't even slowing down the push, because the units on the ground are basically just tanking for the units in the air. So we got the job done, and it's a comprehensive round win for Choine. Beautifully done. Drops Meow Meow C down to 1840. The cat in trouble.
Using up those 9 lives pretty quick, huh?
Right.
I gotta say though, I see Choine play a lot of 8-gun or what is it called, floating artillery array on his wraiths, and I think he loves his tech. I think he pilots it incredibly well, and I think it's so strong into these headbutt scenarios.
As somebody who loved donuts when they were the slightly overtuned, slightly meta, I loved playing them and really enjoyed it. So it's fun to see Choine piloting them well. Here's a mobile beacon steel ball right on an unprotected route. This can be devastating at an end of a game scenario, right? We talked about getting under 2,000 hit points being into that danger zone where a single bad round can do it. And there is no chaff, there's no protection for this angle, right? So that's a really nice job of just finding that hole and exploiting it from Choine.
Yeah, and this is what Choine's so good at doing. He finds these like little pockets that he can slip right in, and you know, if he didn't catch it last round, what ended up happening is this 8-gun wraith on the left side absolutely tore through the chaff on the left side. And here we go, steel balls get in, that left tower goes down, and it's another early tower cheese. These early tower cheeses means that these this right side should just crush.
Yeah, adding melting points might have felt like the answer to the Wraith and the Overlord, but these melters have never gotten to target anything useful at all.
Nope.
Now they're finally targeted on a steel ball. Congratulations, that's the biggest thing it got to target all day. And, oh, so close. 20 hit points left. Cat down to its last life.
This is Choine's curse. This is where the player makes a comeback.
Well, he's got the
loose formation crawlers though.
Yeah, he's got the shield protecting him against the fire. He's gone to loose formation crawlers.
But I mean, we got a level 4 Wraith with absorption module. That is one of the worst things to see in this game. I feel like that is certainly up there.
Right.
Something cool being done by Meow Meow C. If you look over to the middle loose formation crawlers, there is a rhino drop being called in on them. This is what we like to colloquially call a Goomba Stomp. This will act as a missile. It will kill the crawlers, and the body will survive, so it might even slow down these steel balls just slightly. I think Choine's got this in the bag. What do you think, Amara?
I think so too. I don't see a comeback there. But you never know. I'd say if Meow Meow C can stabilize, and I think Meow Meow C's problem right now is not all the big units, but the chaff clear, really. It needs to get through the steel balls, needs to get through the chaff on the ground, and now Choine is crushing it. This defense. Back is broken. And it's over.
That level 4 Wraith just sneezed on the right-hand tower. The tower popped.
Yeah, gold damage dealer, gold kills. Very nice. Dillo against HD Sussauer, I think, is one of them. And I Like Napping is facing Shiroha. So I think those are the two that I would be intrigued to go to.
Yeah, I'm down for either of those. Let's say you.
We've
you
already
take a pick.
we've shown I like napping. Let's show Dillo and HD Sussauer. Welcome to round 3 of Vanguard Tournament Asia, Weekend Tournament Asia number 72. We've got HD Sussauer and Dillo. Dillo is one of those folks that can qualify for the Lunch Clash tournament. HD Sussauer cannot, at least not without winning twice, so he's on the route to trying that. Sussauer's taken the Quick Supply Specialist, near side blue, with Stormcallers and Fangs. Dillo on the far side, a Giant Specialist, with Mustangs and Marksmen. How do you feel about that Mustang Marksman pack?
The question I have to ask when I see Mustang Marksman is, are they running Assault mode? And the answer is Dillo isn't. So I am not a terribly big fan of this starter. Like, I would honestly rather have Crawler Mustang, even though that's also still not a great opener. It feels even worse right into something like Stormcallers round 1. I mean, how do you feel about it?
I mean, it is my weakest pack. I'm not a huge fan of Marksman. I expect them to do the kind of damage that a pack of Phoenix does, and they don't. So intuitively, I play them poorly, because I have them kind of in my head in the same role, and I just need to commit harder to Marksman than I do to Phoenix. I need to commit more deploys into it. So I play them poorly, personally. And then, Mustangs can be great, but as a round 1 starter unit, unless they are going to feed off of, say, Elite Marksman or Elite Specialist and start getting levels, I am not a huge fan of them in round 1. Round 2, I love them, but round 1, not so much.
Yeah.
And I think you can see why.
Yeah, Storm sneeze on them and everything dies.
Exactly. It's not like you're going to have anti-missile on round 1. The opponent knows to throw down arc lights, which they did. And Sussauer wins round 1. Dillo down to 4,800 hit points. Sussauer's on 4,200. We go to round 2.
Should be told, though, taking 200 round 1 is, like, pretty acceptable. I'm very happy taking that in these early rounds. And if you can keep these losses small, right? One of the big things about Mustangs is that, in my opinion at least, they are the single hardest scaling DPS in the game. So if you can keep them, if you can keep the rounds long and the game long, you give more chances for that Mustang to have 1 or 2 good rounds and get those early levels that it really desperately needs.
Right, and I think HD Sussauer is thinking that. That's why he's picked up the Rhino Assault and dropped it on the unprotected tower back right. Dillo took Redeploy, which I love when you're in an aggro position. It gives you so much flexibility. For example, he can do something like drop this crawler here, and then next round redeploy it down to somewhere else on the flank, and it doesn't even pay the summoning sickness. All sorts of fun things he can do. He also leveled up that tower to level 2 rather than defend it. So at 23,000 hit points, it's going to take a minute for this guy to punch through. It's something like 8 punches. So it's not a minute, it's 8 seconds, but still.
It really comes down to if this tower timing is meaningful, right?
Right.
And it looks like it's going to be, these early level arcs against things like Stormcaller, Mustang, or sorry, not Stormcaller Mustang, Crawler Mustang, is just turns out very strong. And Sussauer is going to give a heavy punch this round too.
Right, and that drops Dillo to 3950, and importantly, of course, it's really preventing those Mustangs from scaling. So it's round 3, they're still level 1. This time we get a mobile beacon, and instead of the attacker taking it, defender Sussauer takes it, and Dillo took the Rhino Assault. Also, Ms. Diana is calling you out, Clint, says, wait, Mustang's DPS scales better than Wasps? They don't have the elite marksman tech. It's true.
That is true.
Wasps are the single best DPS in the game, outside of, for example, a melting point. But It does take them a minute to get up to the point that it works. Diana, of course, is expert at doing that in the 4-player free-for-all mode. It's made her one of the top players in the world in that mode.
Yeah, that is true. Elite Marksman is an option. I feel like it's kind of a coin flip though to see it nowadays on the 1v1 ladder.
She says you really can't protect wasps in 1v1 enough.
Right. You also can't protect me against battlefield spells, so.
Right. I mean, the problem is you throw down enough things that can protect them, like shield or whatever, and then now you're not in all the full carry attacks anymore. So
yeah, exactly.
You don't get all the power out of them. Dillo has taken range on the Mustangs. Dropped a flank, dropped a rhino in the flank, and yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, Dillo taking a little bit of a page out of Sussauer's book and giving him the rhino right back. But a really interesting timing here that I want to talk about that I see. Round 3 oil is something that I have heard Sacco refer to as like a necessity when you're playing against aggro. And, here we are seeing it perfectly in use. And I think this round, which should have gone Dillo's way, with this range enhancement being sneaked in, is, again, robbed away from Dillo. And, the damage keeps stacking.
Right, HD Sussauer hasn't had a hit point lost. Dillo's down to 3,500. And, of course, that oil stays for 2 rounds. Now, the key thing is he finally did get the levels into those early Mustangs. They're going to be level 2. Adding some Fire Badger for both players. Sea Badger, Take Badger. I am excited for Typhoon Specialist, which is coming, and a little bit worried about Badger Specialist.
I'm so worried about Badger Spec. Given that we'll have now all the rare units behind a specialist, is there one that stands out to you as like being the strongest?
I have been loving Sabretooth right now.
Oh, it's so good.
I think Typhoon Specialist enabling Balfoon is going to be really tremendous. Like being able to plan that you have that as part of your build. And I think what we're going to see is these longer term builds where, hey, people have identified this is a Fire Badger build, and now I can run it because I'm a Fire Badger specialist. I think you're going to see them developing in that way. And I kind of like that. I think that's probably good for the game.
I agree. It gives a lot. I think it, in a way, not necessarily forces diversity, but certainly enables it, right? By creating units that are not able to show up on the other opponent's board and giving certain strategies that only one player can do, or at least offering them the option to, right? I think does wonders for the game, right? Like, I think an underrated Badger composition is Badger Phoenix. I think an underrated Typhoon composition, right, is Typhoon Hacker. And we actually might see a little more of that in the very near future.
Right. I think it's kind of silly that both players went for the Badger flanks here. I think there's better uses for your Badger than just dropping them on the flank. Obviously, dropping them on the flank can be strong, but I think both of them had good plays in the main fight, but they may have had to steer away from because of this oil. The addition of the Overlord was a great choice given that the Fire Badger was present. He's going to win the round for Dillo, so he's finally on the board. HD Sussauer will be down to 3,800, Dillo at 3,500.
And I think something that is always worth noting is how scary boat levels can be. Early on, right, there isn't really like an effective answer in my mind outside of like similarly leveled marksman with AA. But like, for example, Sussauer's answering it with a melting point. And the reality, right, is if that boat ever gets on that melting point before it's begun charging up, that melting point is dead.
Right. Interesting. I was expecting him to put the heavy armor on the boat, but it's not where he's going with it.
Oh, yeah, he goes for the fire badgers. I think that's kind of smart. The main reason, I mean, obviously, right, the melting points are new this round, but in this scenario, right, if a rhino is there, the heavy armor badgers win. In the scenario of this melting point, it takes an incredibly long time for the melting point to ramp up and then clear that link efficiently. And I think a fortress would have like 2 to 3 shots per. So there's not really a great answer. It's also not double missilable now, or I think quad missilable. Right. But we have a war factory, corner war factory. Here we go.
Dillo has
Some late aggro war factory.
Corner war factory on round 5 with efficient maintenance. So he's taking efficient maintenance because he knows that this game is not going to be over in 2 rounds. He's not going for a knockout punch with this. So he's expecting the war factories to be on the board for a long time. If anything, I think there's a slight mistake there in baiting out the melting point with the Overlord of the previous round, but, you know, you can make the argument that he saved enough hit points on the board for that to have been worth doing. He's got the distractions in the form of these established flank badgers, so he distracted the melting point for a while. He's going to get to tower, now he's locked on the melting point, and as you can see with the tower debuff, War Factory does beat Melter.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right now,
and we're seeing. I was just going to say, sorry. We're seeing a build of yesteryear in War Factory Mustang. You know, the thing that you desperately need when you're running something like a War Factory is very clean and very good chaff clear.
Right.
And you also need chaff. Mustangs can be both. It's perfect. It's a match made in heaven.
Right. Only thing that they are not great at is they aren't going to be out in front of this War Factory until he takes range. And if he takes range in Launcher Overload, then they'll be ahead of it again, or behind it again. So.
Here's a good question for you.
Great question. The beacon's forcing a diagonal orientation to increase the number of guns firing. That's part of it. That's why you do it in front, so that you get the 3rd gun back here engaged, and then also so that it doesn't stop. You're making sure that it doesn't include the tower in its pathing. If you've got a unit in a mobile beacon's path, the unit stops moving and to fire at that unit. It's when there is not a unit in the actual path, then the unit will continue to move along the path. So the idea is it'll continue to advance towards this tower while advancing on this tower and shooting at it. While, and as you said, having a 3rd gun engaged here, and it's got the 4th gun for protecting against the flank. And of course the mobile beacon ensures that you can't just distract it with units coming from interesting places. Like, it would...
Yeah, I think to add on to that a little bit...
Yeah, please do.
I think this is also just a good aggro angle with mobile beacons, and the reason I think that, right, is if you watch people like Conclusion or Woot, who like to do a lot of these like weird boat jump drive shenanigans, they will do this exact mobile beacon. I have been doing a lot of asym aggro fort staying, and I've been doing this exact mobile beacon. I think it just allows this like very shallow, quick run by the tower, grab it, debuff things, and kill everything on that side, and then quickly move over to the other side.
Right, it's the fact that it doesn't include the tower, so it doesn't stop to shoot the tower. That's the important
exactly,
part about that.
Yeah. Sussauer getting a little robbed this round. That War Factory has just a small sliver of HP.
Yeah, Sussauer down to 1,400 hit points. And Dillo gets the triple level 2 steel balls. We talked about that in the round 1 match, where the player playing the War Factory did not have the steel ball production, so wasn't able to make the best use of mech div. Dillo does have steel ball production. This is the more typical tech loadout, the 5 techs plus 1 production on the ground, and that ground is production is steel ball. And the reason for that is so that you can make the crawlers. Oil here, I talked about this with a Poochie. It actually leaves a mobile beacon out and around. You might actually want your oil more like this for really blocking this War Factory on 2 rounds consecutive. But a lot of people are thinking about getting the most value out of their round 1 drop, which is what we're going to get here.
Yeah, and we see some interesting answers coming out from Sussauer here in Acid Scorps.
Acid Scorp.
And then range, suck.
Yeah, Acid Scorp is the canonically
What were you going to say?
Acid is the canonically correct answer to the War Factory. It's why the War Factory has no tongue coating, but your answer to War Factory should absolutely include Acid Scorpion, if not Acid Crawler, one or the other. Or both.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've been seeing a lot of Acid Crawler recently too, and I like that. I think the cool call out from the Scorpion here is that it also pretty efficiently deals with this little Fire Badger shenanigans on the left side, so
Yeah,
you know, it's a little bit of a double-edged sword.
The back right corner as well. It's a tool with more than one use right now. So we've got the lock, we've got suck, down goes the factory. The oil was the key piece there. It ensured that that factory was out in front of the Mustangs. The Mustangs' range weren't going to advance ahead of it. And pass it on the ground. It'll be 3 surviving melters plus change. Drops Dillo to 1300. Both players under 1400, above 1300. And neck and neck going into the next round.
And Sussauer showing some signs of life against Corner War Factory. This is pretty meta as of late, so it's cool to see.
Double Rhino drop on the back line. We're going to get one for the Goomba Stomp on top of the crawlers, the other one right next to it. And of course the one next to it should win the fight eventually, because the one dropped in. The Goomba Stomp does take damage from the units it's landing on, equivalent to the hit points it landed on.
Now, Sussauer this round went for diffraction. Does that feel like a mistake to you?
I haven't run it against Corner War Factory in this meta. The last time that I have checked, the math on that diffract is definitely a mistake against a War Factory. The thinking would be it protects you against the steel ball production, it protects you against the mech div, it protects you against the wasp, but mathematically it just does not. It does not keep up with the War Factory. You need enough damage to kill the War Factory. That is your first goal. I think he's counting on the acid from the Scorpions, and Dillo is doubling down going into this oil. The thing I was thinking that Dillo could have done here is sell the level 2 War Factory, buy 2 more on this side, and hit the long side tower off of the opposite, rather than coming through the oil here.
Yeah, the hit him with the left, hit him with the right idea.
There's no reason to stay stuck behind this. You have to force yourself.
I think now that's something that's really scary here is that the Mustangs are shorter range than the War Factories,
Yeah,
and
range.
more importantly, the melting points have a shorter range than the War Factories. Yeah, that's pretty brutal. Maybe it's good enough.
Gets one.
Oh my god, it's gonna do it.
And this, with suck, it's enough. This thing, level 3, with heavy armor, gets the lock, is able to tank the shots for long enough to heal itself back up. HD Sussauer does get the win. Very nice. And Ms. Diana says, I think multi-beam is sweet and sour, predicting range, giving Dillo the front Mustangs. And I think you might have been right that it did clear through the Mustangs more efficiently. There were a whole bunch of things that the multi-beam was answering, but I didn't think it was going to get enough healing out of it. I didn't think it was going to get enough DPS to to out-heal the War Factory's damage, especially given the level 2. Very nicely done from Sussauer. 5th place in the Weekend Tournament European last week. Still alive in this tournament this week. Dillo, one of the players who could qualify for the Lunch Clash tournament, takes the loss in round 3. Flix was playing the spoiler against the Green Mountains, and Green Mountains gets the win. Jota beats Aochan. Single True gets the win against ICD. Crazy Fish over Play Archer. Play Archer is already qualified by invitation. Steel Sane wins over Lavamancer. Steel Sane is qualified by virtue of having won twice. HD Sussauer wins. I Like Napping beat Shiroha. That's one of the other players who can qualify today. Zemp, who has already qualified, loses to Prince Pokey. The next line down. Goodness, what are the... Oh, Master has lost to Death is the Order. So, Master goes down. Gunjastar beats Arganeer. This player, the longer the name, the more handsome it is. Fair enough, okay. Can't argue with the logic. Is this a... I think this is B-Man, right? This is a B-Man alt. It's, because B-Man's official translation is B Station Shark Rookie. This is Fish Station Sharkbird Vegetable Bee. So it does sound like it. Oh, B-Man against Napping. Sussauer against Jota. Steel Sane against Rooster. We are into the round of many, many good matches. Do we want to see Death is the Order, who's just beaten Master, or where are we going here?
Let's do that. Napping? Is that 11 versus 4 seed?
Yeah, the 11 versus 4. Death is the Order versus the longer the name. We could, of course, follow some of our Western heroes, but Steel Sane and Rooster are both already qualified, so I think we might... maybe we should follow Napping again for B Station and Napping, just as a B-Man and Napping.
Yeah, let's do that.
Just because we know Napping can qualify if they win it. Welcome to... It's this round 4 of Weekend Tournament Asia, the Vanguard Tournament, Weekend Tournament 72. We've got B-Man against I Like Napping. We saw Napping in round 1 of this tournament. He, of course, is one of the players who can qualify for the last slot in the Launch Clash tournament if he wins this one. Napping Farside Red took a Giant Specialist with Tarantula and Crawler. B-Man Nearside Supply Specialist with Sledge and Fang.
Any early predictions for this for these early rounds? I think I like both of these drafts overall. I think Giant Spec, Crawler, Tarantula can scale very well, and similarly, Supply Spec, Fang, Sledgehammer scales pretty well too.
Yeah, I would find it hard to bet against B-Man. I have just too much respect for him as a player, so I suspect this is the end of the line for Napping, and we'll see if I'm wrong.
Ooh,
Spicy.
I really like what B-Man does on Supply Spec here, yeah.
Round 1 Phoenix. 50 for the unlock, 200 for the deploy, making great use of the Supply Specialist. There's no anti-air. Round 1 to B-Man.
And man, I love... Phoenixes is one of those interesting units against Tarantulas, because I feel like, 1, they go really well with Tarantulas, and 2, really well against Tarantulas. I think it does well into mines. Whenever I see a Tarantula, I think like I really want a Phoenix. So yeah, I think it's super heads up from B-Man here. Ooh, round 2 unit drop. Anything screaming out to you, Amarok?
Well, I know B-Man likes the storms. He's taken the storms. The triple marksman for napping as the answer to the Phoenix will let him outrange them, and it's 3 deploys. He can also take 3 more, so he could get himself 6 of them. Instead, he's going for the level 2 Mustang. Talked about scaling, how dangerous the Mustangs are while scaling, and getting them to start at level 2 certainly helps jumpstart that process.
Absolutely. I think I've talked about this a little bit on my stream, but or maybe at least in the Discord, right? But sometimes unit drops, while they're symmetrically given to each player, it is asymmetrically powerful. If Phoenixes were already one of like the natural predators for tarantulas, a level 2 sword certainly is.
Right.
It's so strong for B-Man here.
Yeah, level 2 Storm is going to do great over the top of this. Of course, the level 2 Mustangs are on the same side as the Phoenix, but they're going to have to clear through the whole rest of the board before they're targeting the Phoenix. The question is, does he have enough chaff to keep those storms occupied? He does so far. Gets in on the Phoenix on the far right. It's a really good positioning for napping. On his Mustangs, got things done, and it was really the chaff up the middle, the crawler that came straight up the middle over the helipad, as it were.
Wow, this round I feel like has no business being this close, and insanely well played to napping there.
Yeah, that was entirely his positioning at the start of the round, and I'm talking about
100%.
That pack of crawlers there and this Mustang. They're just so beautifully positioned. So really well done.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things that really starts to separate, good players from great players in this game is how well they understand positioning and how well they can, manipulate the ground to do exactly what they want it to do.
Yeah, you are spot on in that.
Yeah, and that was a masterclass right there from napping. Honestly, really impressive stuff.
Just brilliantly used too.
B-Man going for additional Stormcallers here, though. If you are napping and you're seeing 3 Stormcallers come out this round, what's your plan for like round 4 and 5?
I think I am probably switching out of the tarantulas and planning a different chaff clear with a little bit better range is my plan. Among other things, I want to have something behind that's not going to get targeted by the storms quite as easily. He's taken range on the Mustangs, and there's actually potential value in a missile interceptor on the Mustangs. I know a lot of people think, oh, that's a terrible decision because it drops your DPS on this unit that you want leveling. But if the storms are killing your Mustangs, you're not getting any DPS out of it at all. So it can make a huge difference to swap that up and take them. I've run it in testing grounds and run 2 average mid-game boards and compare the DPS or compare the total damage dealt by the Mustangs for with missile interceptor to without, and the Mustangs deal more damage because they're alive longer, right? Especially if you fire off the ground or whatever else whatever your other key piece was. And Titan points out that a level 2 storm only needs 10 missiles to hit to one-shot a tarantula. So, yeah, brutal.
Yeah, it is a tough spot to be in, I think, with as the tarantula player seeing this like early Stormcaller drop into multiple more Stormcallers. Moreover, right, the early leveled Stormcaller drop.
Right, this thing was brutal.
I also wanted the comment on your comments about anti-missile. It used to be one of those techs that I would consider to be like a noob trap, so to speak, right? Like I would see like lower MMR players, not to like shoot me bads here, right. But really over rely on it. And it was like, hey, you have like 3 level 3 stings back here with AM not doing anything for the whole game. Maybe we should change that up. But no, it's super strong now, and I think it actually has application in games, and I run it on my as my 4 techs too.
Right. And for me, it's partly I found myself never running 4 tech Mustang. Right? You don't need 4 techs to have a carry Mustang. Right? You only need 3. So your 4th tech is a utility tech. What is your utility tech? And the utility for Mustangs, especially in a world where maybe I wasn't playing Mustangs all game long and I get them as a drop in round 8, I get 3 level 1s as a drop or something, like, okay, I'll give them anti-missile, who cares?
Yeah.
They're not my DPS anymore. So there's a second utility there. And I've taken to thinking about most of my units that way, as far as I'm giving them 3 techs for when I'm running them as a carry, and 1 tech for when I get them late.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting idea. I certainly don't approach that. I think I just make 4 techs that I always want to play with the intention of maybe every now and again I'll have a 4 tech game. But I wanted to make a small read on the board here. I think Napping's going to sell the left-hand Tarantula and go right into War Factories.
Mm-hmm. This is looking like a War Factory Mustang game, and he did sell the right side Tarantula last round. He hasn't taken them. It's the perfect time to be getting out. Both players take the Orbital. Nuke was also offered, but Orbital is just so much value. This, I would have loved to see Napping put it just a little bit further forward, because we know everything's going to advance, and I would want the center line to be right over the things I want to hit after they've advanced a line or 2. But, okay, he's just thinking ahead to his War Factory placement. He's got the corner War Factory, places it over here, and that's going to pin everything in place, so none of these units are going to be moving as much as I thought they were going to be. So, I take it back, sir. Apologies, Nathan.
Yeah, and another important thing to note here is we have level 3 stings in the back supporting that War Factory. Level 3 is essentially where it starts to really come online in my mind, especially if you have like an attack upgrade from the tower.
Right.
If there's ever an item like improved firepower or haste module, you are sweating a little bit on the receiving end of the Mustang play.
Right. That is actually a really good point, that there's a subtle improvement to Mustangs where Mustang proper didn't get a buff, but did get a pseudo buff with the attack enhancement changing from plus 10%, plus 20% to plus 12, plus 24, because the units that benefit the most from that were the ones that did the least damage. So Typhoon, Mustang, etc. really benefit from it.
And we see a bunch of levels coming out for the Mustangs, and this is where I'm really starting to sweat. Not only are we behind the 8 ball with the War Factory coming out, but also I'm feeding my opponent's Mustangs.
Yeah, it's certainly a scary position for B-Man, and does not get obvious help, although I think the Steel Ball might be the right answer here. B-Man takes the Wraith. Of course, Wraith is something that you cannot shoot with a War Factory, and he can throw down degen, or he can throw down repairs to tank a whole bunch of Mustang shots.
Yeah, honestly, frontline Wraith against this corner War Factory is so interesting, right? Because oftentimes what you'll end up doing is you'll have this idea of like these like shallow flank crawlers and these crawlers that Napping has done, and that really slows down your targeting and pulls units in weird ways and allows the War Factory to get in. But the Wraith can't get stuck, so to speak,
right,
like other units can. So it's interesting.
Brilliant little play between these two here. Napping did what I was talking about in that previous game for Dillo, sold out of the right side and bought into on the left side, while B-Man was cagey to that idea, and instead of buying one melter with range and putting it on the side of the attack, actually bought a second melter and has it covering. Of course, Napping's still getting in, and in part by dropping the level 5 Rhino on the back corner to pull a whole bunch of things, so that that melter on the left didn't have the protection it had expected. So play, correctly read and counterplayed, and then the correct read and counterplayed was also countered by Napping's board. So another really nice set of plays by both players.
Reverse counter.
Exactly. So Napping solidly ahead after 6 rounds. B-Man down to 1771. I like Napping at 2738. Absorption is certainly one way to give one of your melting points suck if needed, without necessarily taking the tech. Could also go on
at that point. You just have to have that beam fully charged on that melting point, or right. Not the melting point, the war factory.
Right. He has put it on the weak side, the original right side melting point, and puts the barrier on the left side melter. Picks up a third melter for the middle.
Yeah, I see B-Man has sold off the Wraith. I don't know if you caught what was going on there, but B-Man just like threw it down in the center and let it die to the 2 stings in the center, and I felt like that was a mistake. I think what you ideally want to do, right, is make a hard read on what like the opponent's gonna do, and have the Wraith in one of those corners to slow things down.
I'm surprised he wasn't using the Wraith as an actual Mustang counter, right? Like, if he had thrown down healing on it, kaboom, it never dies. There's nothing on the board that kills it.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, he just let it go.
And honestly, kind of something crazy from Napping here. He sells the right factory, goes left, sells the left factory, and now he's going center. It's a 1-2-3 punch here from Napping.
And B-Man again has that covered with this middle melter. Also added fire, dropped oil in the middle, and does in fact get locks on both war factories. This time, the war factory is down. The only hope for Napping is that big Rhino on the far side, and that should get locked onto as well.
Yeah, honestly, a sick read from B-Man.
Yeah, that was really nice to have the middle melter. And that's one of those things, you're at certain levels, you don't think about all of the angles, and B-Man really covered all of his angles there. Drops, I'd like Napping to 202 hit points. It's close.
Yeah, I was afraid Napping was dead there, actually. I made a small sound because I was like doing some quick mental math.
Yup.
But like realistically, right, that was B-Man's Alpha Strike. And though we have things like Sticky Oil Bomb and Incendiary now being presented, there is counterplay from Napping's side. And now Napping has his own Alpha Strike in both Incendiary Bomb and Oil from the tower. So it's a squeaky spot for both players. It's going to be a very technical turn.
Ooh, that is a great set of Incendiary and Oil for Napping. Make sure that they overlap enough. And B-Man drops a melter down there to slow down and kill the Rhino. He's also given the melters electromagnetic barrage. We've got range and launcher overload on the war factories. Unsurprising. Sold one to buy it into another place. It's back over on the flank. Napping did take that second mobile beacon. Titan called that out in chat. Said it was a really interesting choice, and that lets him run these 2 war factories from different places with different mobile beacons. So, quite clever. Quite a clever choice there.
And in the previous round, he used it to have the Rhino do some late tanking on the left side. Yep. Very heads-up stuff. Middle melting point gets a lock and kills.
Yep. Trail Melter took care of the Rhino. I think this is GG's. I don't think that one melter or one war factory is going to be able to get it done. Especially not if the... Oh no, Napping's own oil gets lit in the middle and is killing off the few surviving Mustangs. So that war factory's going to be all but on its own here.
Oh, and it gets on the tower. Oh, it's just a series of misfortunate events. Oh.
And Napping's bid to qualify for the Lunch Clash tournament comes to an end, denied by B-Man. Well played, both of you. That was really intricate. A whole lot of technical play, all the way from the positioning of this Mustang at the very start of the game to the multiple jumps from the war factories, the positioning of the melters. Like, there is literally not a unit on this board that is just slapped down in a haphazard position. Both of these players really have a well thought out board. So very worth taking a look at there from a top down view. Very nicely done.
I think Napping's really only mistake was in the last round, not shielding around Incendiary in the center. I think everything else was like stellar. I think once you see Sticky Oil Bomb come back up and Incendiary Bomb come back up for B-Man, you have to play around it.
Brilliant match, you two. That was a lot of fun. Single True beat Hawken Space. Hawken Space was in the spoiler role. We saw B-Man beat Napping. The Green Mountains has beaten Gunjastar. HD Sussauer beats Jota. Jota has been desperate to qualify for that Launch Clash tournament without going through the fraught qualifying field. So he'll be very disappointed in that result. Rooster beat Steel Sane, as you just saw. Death is the Order is your winner against the longer the name, the more handsome it is. And at the bottom, wait. This says Prince Boji. Prince Boji's Woot.
Yeah, that's Woot.
It's Woot under the Prince Boji name. I love it. Prince Boji, Woot, of course, but that's great. And comes in under the hard to recognize name, but tips it as by being 301 instead of 201. Love it. That gives us, where are we at? 7 unbeaten with Crazy Fish the spoiler. Crazy Fish will be up against B-Man. We could get, in fact, we could jump to Woot. Woot is one of the folks that can qualify. In fact, I think Woot might be the last surviving player who can qualify on just this win. Although, no, StarCraft Panda can as well. So StarCraft Panda against Rooster is the one qualifier, and Woot versus the number 2 seed Single True, I guess. Do you have a preference? Panda versus
I want to say, let's watch Woot, yeah.
Let's do it. Welcome to the quarterfinals of Vanguard Tournament Asia, Weekend Tournament Asia number 72. Near side, Woot, playing under the name Prince Boji, and the far side, we have Single Spirit, or Single True. Single Truth, maybe? Single Truth. Might be the best interpretation of that. Woot, Giant Specialist with our Steel Ball and Crawler. Blue is Woot, yes, Patty. So Woot coming out aggro left, and Single True coming out, though you could pronounce this Shenzhen, if you were going to go for your Mandarin speaking. Marksman, Specialist with 3 marksmen already. I love that start. If I'm going to go marksman, it kind of needs to be this start for me to get enough deploys and early levels into the marksman that the marksmen start to behave the way that I need them to. And starts out.
I completely agree.
Starts out standard with the draw position. Fangs left enough room for a giant. If he decided to replace the tarantulas with Vulcans, although Woot is just going to crush this board in round 1. With that aggro offset positioning and the way that things split for based on Gen.
Yeah, and what gets really scary here for red, right, is that there's a bunch of XP being funneled into the steel balls here. And early level steel balls, especially if we see like a portable shield early, like a nano repair kit to some degree, but also like heavy armor, like it can just become so difficult to deal with. Like also absorption module, that's super difficult and annoying to deal with as well.
Right. Luckily for the defender, the pack of steel balls fell 6 XP short of being level 2 with heavy armor this round.
But to Woot's credit, he doesn't even see the rest of the pack. He just windmill slams heavy armor.
Yep.
I blame him. I would too.
The difficult question here is going to be, are you taking extended range marksman? I think it's a trap because you're getting attacked at speed, right? So taking, reducing your damage throughput by taking, reducing their attack by 20% would have been a mistake. This is also, I think, a mistake. We don't want this marksman exposed on the attack side. We want it kind of defensive somewhere, but he's going to put it right out there where it can get farmed for XP. It'll be one of the first units to go down, and I don't think it's going to do enough to chew through the steel balls. This guy is it's going to require 2 tap to shoot the heavy armor steel balls. It will 1 tap the level 1s, and he does have the air above it, so wasps will get the job done for, well, maybe they won't, because there is a pack of wasps on the flank. Well, actually,
with some crawlers too.
That's much better. In fact, than what I was originally thinking with putting the orange man on that side. Because now we're going to slow this attack down twice. The problem for him is that Woot's attacking, this screen was enough to protect against 1 pack of wasps. It was not enough to protect against the wasps plus crawlers. Now they get tower. Now they are going to feed off of Orange Man. And it's going to be that outside pack that needed the XP that's going to get it. They have leveled, of course, the pack that was 6 XP away have leveled. So it's going to come down to a wasp fight here. Woot may have won the ground, but single truth wins the air war and wins the round. Woot down to 4460.
I would consider this a bit of a Pyrrhic victory for red here. The really scary thing here being that both ball groups leveled. And dealing with early leveled balls is so spooky, right? The other thing, right, is that those wasp are summons, and
right,
it doesn't really do a whole lot of damage.
Right. Woot goes straight to the Fire Badgers. In his giant specialist, he has unlocked his favorite unit, as you can see down here. His favorite unit, of course, is the Overlord. He
Overlord, yeah.
Already sold that pack of steel balls that was going to be running into the flames. Puts the heavy armor on the Fire Badgers, so they're just going to light this on fire so that everything else can run through it. The Overlord comes in over the top, and he's not even reinforcing this flank. He's just going to let it go. Let's see what happens.
The age-old adage remains true. You see Badger, take Badger.
See Badger, click Badger. Wait, what else was offered? I don't remember.
I didn't see anything.
Vulcan.
I just saw Badger.
Vulcan technically was offered for this slot, but even Single Truth understands that 3 Badgers are better than 1 Vulcan.
Yeah, especially at level 3, it's a lot of HP on a body.
Now, I do like his answer to the Wasp flank, which was the Wraith out there. It's more expensive, but it's a unit that's going to be valuable against everything that Woot had on the board. He did not know about the coming Overlord. Obviously, we kind of knew because we know Woot's style. So if you knew Woot stylistically, he would have been able to predict that. But it was a really solid answer to the flank. He protected the other flank as well.
Yeah, reinforcing the right-hand tower too buys us a little bit of time, and it might actually... Oh, I don't think this Wraith can kill this Overlord. Yeah.
Heavy armor. No, it's not the heavy armor Overlord. Oh my god.
Oh.
Both sides down. It's the two hero fangs doing, count 'em, 12 hit points of damage to Woot. Critical.
An enhancement module comes out. There's a leveled boat here that we can take and sell and do some fun stuff with.
Oh, Woot is just living the dream right now. There it is.
Yeah.
Level. Mm-hmm. Doesn't even have to sell it right now because he doesn't have anything else he wants to level.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so he could keep it, let it farm with the +20, +20.
And realistically, right now that enhancement module is only 50 credits off of not paying itself off. And this is basically best case scenario if you're playing enhancement module stuff. You have a giant out, it levels, you see it, you slam it, you don't think twice about it. Woot's starting to load up that boat cannon. Start running that down.
Yes,
at
it
ya.
is. As Addy Switcher is saying in chat, there is one golden ticket left to have 2 wins under the belt to qualify for the launch tournament. Woot, near side blue, is one of the players who can achieve that if he wins this very tournament, this Asia Vanguard tournament. Portable shield on the Fire Badgers gives them all 32,000, 33,000 hit points, so that is 3 giants here in defense.
Yeah.
But they're 3 giants that don't shoot up, and we have not yet given aerial specialization to the marksman. I mean, honestly, I was thinking aerial specialization on the marksman might have been the right round 2 choice, just knowing that it was Woot.
Yeah.
There was absolutely no air showing at the time. It's just, I know this is Woot. It's time to click aerial.
Yeah, I wonder if Woot is playing a little bit of like a mind game here by one, not having his normal profile picture, and by 2, not having the same name that he normally does.
Right. And I love that it's tipped just enough that if you read the name, you understand, oh, Prince Boji. We know that Prince Boji is Woot. It's brilliant.
That's also one of his sub badges.
Yes. Yeah.
Profile picture. And Worm coming out for both players. I think Worm is also one of those toolkits that he being Woot here really loves to play.
Yeah, and plays well.
Yeah, obnoxiously well. Yeah.
Machine gun
and ground cannon coming out.
And of course, we can sell the one to get the. But there hasn't been somebody else to level yet, so he's still not selling it. Might as well just keep it. May get another free level out of this one. It got halfway to level last round, and it's got level 3 Fire Badgers to farm off of, level 3 Marksman to farm off of, and we're getting close to the danger zone here, where there's 2,200 in strong survivable units showing for Woot right now. 4 Overlords, plus the Sandworm is 2,000, plus the Fire Badgers would make 2,200. So Single Truth is really close to walking the tightrope. Is now in what looks like a Worm, Wasp, Wraith combo. A little bit late getting the Wasps started here. It has them on the board behind the Worm. Woot has leveled up that right side tower to level 2, but this grouping will still come through it.
Some really interesting stuff for Fred. I don't know if you see this, but there is a singular pack of crawlers with acid and a scorpion, I guess, to punch down these Fire Badgers. I feel like that's too much respect being given to the Fire Badgers, personally.
It could have been.
I know they're annoying, but
acid crawler's actually also going to be useful against the Worm, but it might have been a bit much. for what he was seeing, but it turns out to be a pretty good play. He can drop another crawler in front of the worm at some point. 4 surviving giants, 1,600 hit points. Single truth is down to 839 hit points. Now we are in the danger zone, and that the Overlord has leveled again, so it's going to be level 3, and then he can sell it and have the free 400 to drop anywhere else. Ion Beam for Woot, putting it straight up the line to just create a beeline to tower. Great choice.
Yeah, if I'm red and I know I'm playing Woot, I feel like I'm very dead here. Yeah. There's a jump drive like I thought might come out. He's going to play around Ion by doing that. It makes perfect sense, right?
Right.
And Woot is going to missile out the wasps. Dude, this feels like checkmate. And this is the stuff that you have to, like, you can't play around against, or you just have too many things to worry about, and only 2 deploys or 3 deploys a turn. So,
right,
like, it's just so brutal.
Yeah, you're answering last turn's problems, and there are new problems this turn, and it's just impossible to keep up with. Now, he does go. I saw this coming. He went with range and AA on wasps, so it actually has a decent answer to our overlords. Is adding a mobilized battleship of his own, is adding a wasp swarm, and that wasp swarm is going to be double teched, and has aerial spec on the marksman, so he's doing absolutely everything he can to answer the charge. Also did drop that acid crawler for the worm that was now sold.
The really scary thing here is how fast these boats get in.
Right. Jump drive, of course, gives them +5 movement speed. A lot of people forget about that. It does really make them quick. And, the Ion Beam even took down the call-in Overlord. That is brutal. This is, in fact, going to be GG's. Well played, Woot. Getting it done here in the quarterfinals. There were 7 survivors. And we talked about coming into this game exactly what Woot was going to do. You saw it. Woot did exactly what we said he was going to do and gets the W. You can know it's coming. It's still really, really tough to stop. We have Panda and Rooster. And of course, one of the other players who can qualify with a win here. Let's go StarCraft Panda.
Have you played against StarCraft Panda by chance?
I have not, no. I think across the map.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but StarCraft Panda is an alt for Horrible Will.
Oh, I did not know that. So
I think that's correct.
Confirm or deny.
I think that's what I've heard. I don't know. I'd have to double check. But I'm going to run with it being an alt. I actually ran into him a couple times on ladder and have managed to take a game off of him. He is so good, though. Most of my games, I feel like I'm just behind 2 turns or 2 rounds behind on round 3. So, very good player.
That's a heck of a way to describe it. It's about how I felt when I came across Rat.
I have yet to play against Rat. That's so exciting.
Oh, it was amazing. Like, hey, I took 2 rounds. They were not important 2 rounds.
And they were my oil rounds.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, there's a couple players like that. For me, like Yota, I feel like I've never taken a round off of him. The only times I have were with oil.
Right.
Like it's like it doesn't really count. You know what I mean?
I had all the spells.
Yeah.
So Rooster is running a production war factory again. He's got efficient maintenance and range, and sledge and steel ball.
Interesting. Rooster thinks this is the second game we've basically seen him do the exact same thing. I wonder if PB thinks that production techs might be a little strong or well positioned currently.
Well, he had expressed a really not enjoying this patch and this patch's balance coming for about 2 weeks or so, and he was like, okay, I'll come cast the aces with me, and he messaged me last night and he was like, I have refound my love. I'm entering tourney and I'm gonna win it. Like, all right, man, you go. So apparently he has discovered the joy of Production War Factory.
Interesting. A little unfortunate, an EMP missile RNGing onto the left side factory, but wears off in a reasonable amount of time now, so not too debilitating here. And man, there is just so much stuff to chew through.
Right, this is the problem with Production Factory, right? It's just always got something out, right? It's produced another tank before he's killed that steel ball. It's got another tank out. It's got another, You're just sitting here going, what am I supposed to do against this?
Yeah, outside of having, like, Giga Stings just ready to go.
Well, it was, I ran against Production War Factory so much when Sabman was tuning into his War Factory builds. And that was where I developed that defense that we were talking about earlier. But man, Rooster gets it done here. Beats StarCraft Panda, the Farseer specialist, with triple quad-teched Production War Factory. Does almost 3,000 damage that turn and just takes the Panda out. No Launch Clash tournament for you, Panda. Green Mountain's through to the semifinals. And since B-Man beat Crazy Fish, we are guaranteed a 7th round. No spoiler, in round 6, we will have just 4 unbeaten. It's going to be Green Mountain against Woot, Rooster against B-Man. I think we might have to follow Woot.
I'm so down. I think what's so cool, right, is that this person might not know that this is Woot. But if it was Rooster against Woot, Rooster would absolutely know that was Woot.
Right. Yeah, that is pretty neat. And of course, Woot is the last surviving player who can qualify. He's currently sitting in the 4th seed, having beaten Ferginant, Zemp, Crazy Fish. Welcome to the semifinals of Vanguard Tournament Asia. Alright, welcome to round 6, the semifinals of Vanguard Tournament Asia, Weekend Tournament Asia number 72. We have Green Mountains against Woot. Green Mountains took the Sabertooth Specialist, Woot the Marksman Specialist. Green Mountain, with the defending Asia Mini Tournament Champion, took the kind of scary Mustang Marksman pack. Not the first person we've seen take that, but I think I like it a lot more with the idea that I'm going to have Sabertooth in front of it. And if you knew you were going up against Woot, I think this is the pack you wanted. Mustangs and Marksman.
Yeah, Mustangs, Marksman, really solid early on. Maybe it's not so solid early on, but if you know who you're playing against here, it is ideal. I completely agree. You get the AA spec in both of those units, and that can really shut down some of that Wasp boat play that you'll see Woot do a lot of.
Woot has done field recovery to sell a Stormcaller. Starts with the Stormcallers on the line. Had the Fangs that don't really suit, so he's using the Fangs in flank screening positions. I have heard people say, like, this is so suboptimal, right? But then you see a player of Woot's caliber doing it, and the idea here is he's never going to have to worry about a Phoenix flank, he's never going to have to worry about a Wasp flank, and even things like a Rhino call down these will slow them down a lot because you don't have spin to win on that call-in.
Yeah, Woot does a lot of these very weird ASIM starts. Like, I wouldn't really call this aggro, but, you know, it is forward positioned. I'm gonna be honest, I think he's, like, brilliant in these positions, and I borrow a lot from his games. Like, we'll see likely next round an early tower enhancement to, you know, to level 2, and then I think we'll probably start to see some War Factory play later on, which is kind of atypical for Woot and might be like one of those counter reads, you know.
Yeah, both sides took the laser sight. I am expecting Woot to sell right there. Yep, the other Stormcaller. That's not really what he wanted. But now he's positioned. He's got 550 available. He's wide open to throw down whatever he wants in his aggro positions. And, yeah, here he comes. We've got a Fang up front. We've got a Crawler up front. Now we've added a Sledge up front. And a Sledge in that flanking position to pull this... I think that was probably to pull a Crawler, but it'll successfully pull a bunch of the Mustangs as well. And he's added laser sight to his level 3 marksman. Sledges to tank. And I think he is building into his... straight into his Overlord, right? Sledge plus Overlord was the meta for a long time. And Woot is one of the people responsible for that meta, sir.
You know, I made the read on War Factory, but I actually completely agree with him unlocking sledges and playing the way he's playing. This feels like a classic boat sledge push. Because, you know, and look, on the left side, that tower has been increased or enhanced.
You called it.
We have what's going to be probably a reverse tower timing that favors Woot here, hopefully.
Yeah, he gets that tower. Do the Mustangs get to farm Orange Man? They do. That is exactly what Green Mountain would have wanted to see. Those folks with the laser sight have already leveled. They'll be level 2 next round.
Look, I know Woot's not streaming, but I can hear him yelling right now.
I do think that one's interesting too, right? Woot is like, no. I'm focused. I'm going to go win this. I'm not going to be distracting myself with chat. I'm not going to be looking at conversing with people. I'm not going to be showing what I'm doing or talking about what I might do, you know. I'm not trying to entertain an audience. I'm just going to go win and qualify. There's money on the line. He adds a third Sledge and a Fang. Green Spirit has the call-in slightly offset, so it's going to pull more crawlers towards this tower than that tower. Obviously wants to hit the unprotected, unleveled tower more than the level 2 tower. The Fangs in that screen position do come over to contribute. This is one of the things they're half decent at, but not ideal at protecting. So Green Mountain gets the tower, has leveled Mustangs cruising around the board different places and taking advantage of tower debuff. He's going to punch through the whole board.
Yeah, it's one of those unfortunate things with that underground threat spell early on is sometimes you're trying to develop your board and you can't really like afford to play around that spell, and you know you'd rather take it on the chin now in the early rounds rather than much later in the game when you know it could be even more deadly with like a replicate something else sort of combo. Age-old adage being true once again, Amarok. You see Badger, you take Badger. Both players see Badger, take Badger.
Indeed. And Green Mountain adds the Scorpions. So that is going to be a solid answer to the Fire Badgers. Sold out of the Sabertooth. Felt like the Sabertooth was answering the Sledges really nicely, but is now committing to the Scorpion. And that kind of indicates maybe they're not thinking of this as Woot, because Sabretooth, while answering the sledges, also had the potential to do anti-missile and help answer the Overlord potential.
A lot of flanking and positional play here going on. These Mustangs on the left with laser sights are going to be a bit hosed by the Fire Badgers on the right, or sorry, on the left. But also we have Fire Badgers at level 2 warping in on the right backside. That also should do kind of okay against this flank. But I'm very curious to see what the intention is for blue here. Is the comp idea sort of going to be Fire Badger, Scorp, Marksman, Mustang, or what are we going to see a transition into?
No, that looks like it, right? Let's finish with this, because you've got your chaff clear, you've got your ground single target, you've got your air single target, you've got your air chaff. So Woot in a lot of trouble right now. That this board answers all of the obvious things that he could do. So it's going to be a get really creative, come up with something, and come up with it this round, because you've only got 800 hit points left.
Yeah, and a really strong item comes out for not only Mustangs, but also Fire Badgers in improved firepower control system.
I have not considered running it on Fire Badger. That's fun.
I mean, if it's good on Vulcan, it's good on Badger, you know?
Right. That makes really good sense. I just always think of Fire Badgers having such low actual damage, and I'll just deal the Napalm and Ignite if I need them to do damage. Hey, look, you have had this right all game long. Woot goes to the War Factory instead of the Overlord this game. He's left himself that 7x7. He switches it up, puts it on the other side. Opponent does have Acid there, so next round he's going to need to take Photon immediately. But this round he's got 2 War Factories and a weakened side. He sold out of the pole on this side. That's part of... presumably part of this. Well, now he's got them in both corners, so never mind. Takes the oil. Are we going to trap things in the corner? Yeah, that's pretty solid. And then a mobile beacon.
There's a shot this oil gets ignited here, huh?
Yeah, with lit on fire by the Defender's Fire Badgers. So it's not going to be slowing down the War Factory. They note that the Scorpion did get a pretty quick lock, and could conceivably be throwing down acid. We could be throwing down acid with the crawlers, so we're absolutely going to have to take Photon Coating next round, or he's going to lose.
And man, let me tell you, acid with Mustang supporting it, it shreds War Factories, man.
Right. It spot him around, though, and that was what he needed. Absolutely had to win round 5 there. So, dealing 1,300 damage brings Green Mountains down to 3,400. We go to round 6 of our semifinal. And, Woot, would you like some free Overlords? How about that, sir?
And acid does come out on the crawlers. A lot of avenues for acid here, and if acid staying still kill a War Factory fast enough, acid Overlord will too.
Yeah, Woot is not above accepting the gift from Bear Lake in the Overlords, but Green Mountain is going to go for Missile to clear out any chaff that might defend this flank, or this run, and then we're just going to run Launcher Overlords straight at the tower.
And if I'm not mistaken, right, it only needs 1 volley to kill a level 2 tower from both of those boats, so...
And one of them has the laser sight, so we've sold out of the laser sight back here.
Mm-hmm.
And we've just got the whole boat group, the whole flotilla coming.
And this looks pretty bad for Woot. Just initial impressions here.
Right.
Woot went for the photon on boats here, and I think it's gonna That means the opponent can go damage, and that can be the tempo swing. That's all that's needed when you have 900 HP.
Right. Now, one of the big differences between those two is that the boat photon, because it's affecting more than one unit, only lasts 20 seconds. This guy's photon would have lasted 25, so he'd have been getting 5 extra seconds out of his boats, or out of taking photon on the War Factory, but it did mean that he could run Launcher Overload for cheaper. But as you can see, that photon has worn off. He's still stuck in the acid. Both factories are down, and it is lethal damage. Congratulations, Green Spirit. You are through to the finals. Woot is knocked out at the semis. So, what that means is Europe is going to matter for qualifying. We will have a stacked field for Europe as well. Let's go. Speaking of, let's jump into B-Man and Rooster. B-Man, by the way, has no qualifying victories. So he is somebody who was not a straight invite. He would be looking for the opportunity to qualify here. Or giving himself the opportunity. He needs to do the double today to achieve it. Or, have the, have the open slot last into next week.
And Rooster once again leaning in with what looks like the Prod Factory. It looks like the same build. What's going on here?
Build, and he's loving it. Like he said, it's reinvigorated his love for the game. And I have to agree. I think Production War Factory instead of War Factory, Battle Factory is a really fun way to play it. I would like to see that be the meta for the unit. Rather than, I'd actually like it to be kind of weak if you get it into battle. Right? I want it
I'm kind of on the same opinion, honestly. Sit
back there, be a huge hit point buffer, be absolutely crap at defending itself. If somebody gets the, maybe let it be able to defend itself from chaff, but not really, I don't want it to be taking down other giants. I want it to be relying on its produced units to take down other giants.
Yeah, and realistically, around 6 loss with this much HP on the board, not so bad. Yes. Rooster basically has a full health bar. You can take this to the chin and feel very comfortable feeling into the rest of the game.
So 3,400 hit points. He's got B-Man on just under 2,000, and he's 3 War Factories in.
Guess this is a War Factory around past round 4?
That's what it looks like, yeah. I mean, I'm going to have 800 from income. I'm paying 100 per War Factory, or 50 per War Factory now. So, by round 7, I'm going to have 1,400 income minus 150. Round 8, I'm going to be 1,600 minus 200. Maybe I even sell something at that point to afford a, round 8 is drop 2. Round 9 is drop 1 again. The Switcher asks, can't Rooster win? Can't Rooster win a spot? I'm sorry, no, Rooster has already qualified. Rooster won week 63 and week 70, I believe, to get himself in. Oh, week 63 and week 64, he was the very first to qualify by the double tournament route.
And back-to-back, what a dominant performance.
Yes, that was amazing. Back-to-back European champion.
That's usually a very, very stacked tournament. I think, just speaking candidly here, I think in terms of stacked and not stacked, it's Europe, Asia, very close second, and then North America in a distant third, or the 501 in a distant third.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, because it's not that the 501 is the weaker, it's that the Americas tournament is at a terrible time for Europe and Asia.
Yep, so exactly.
They don't get... that very YOLO guy says, I misread what double tournament meant and thought you had to win 2 on the same weekend. No, it's just win twice. So Rooster did it by winning twice on different weekends. Steel Sane did it by winning twice on different weekends. It's only Dachshund and Apucci that have actually done the double. Rooster has knocked B-Man out. So B-Man won't even be making progress towards qualifying this morning. We go to a final between Rooster and Green Mountain. Well, now, speaking of making progress, Green Mountain is somebody that could make progress. They are not currently on the list of folks who've got a round one. Round 7, the final.
Just
Rooster against Green Mountain.
I'm excited for this one.
Welcome to the final of Vanguard's Tournament Asia. RoosterPB, Nearside, and Blue has been playing those War Factories all day long, enjoying the game with a production War Factory build. It's good to see you back, Rooster. And on the far side, Green Mountains looking to secure the first half of qualifying for the Lunch Clash tournament. Of course, Rooster has already qualified by virtue of winning Europe 64 and Europe 63 back-to-back European champions. Has secured his spot. Green Mountains is looking to get halfway there for the last remaining spot that gets you out of having to go through the qualifying tournament on the 29th. Of course, links to register. Registration is still open for that Launch Clash tournament. You'll find links to register in the description below the video. What do you think of these opening packs, Clint?
Let's take a look. So we have Quick Supply with Fang Stormcaller, which I think is like probably pretty great for what PB's been doing this tournament. I imagine this is like kind of the base that you want to do or want to have, right? And you know, he has the option of just dropping 2 Stormcallers here and then rounding out his board with Chaff and then adding in those War Factories around 4. And I think that's like a valid route. And then we have Marksman, Mustang, Crawler.
Now, interesting to me that Green Mountain, I think, is actually picking Mustang and Marksman, which a lot of folks at our level, in the 501, are thinking of as one of the weakest starting packs. But we saw them take that in the semifinals. We saw them take it again in the finals. They had plenty of other options. It's not like they were forced into this. I think this is legitimately their preferred choice. Yeah,
and the beauty of one of these packs, and probably one of the underrated benefits of playing this this kind of build, or at least opening pack, is that it has a lot of HP. 5200 HP with Rhino spec, which is, a huge round 4 tempo swing. Level 2 Rhinos is nothing to scoff at. It's at least 300 credits going back into your economy, right?
Right.
But yeah, Marksman Mustang is one of those comps, right, that when you see it in an opening pack, you think, right, it should work, right? It works on paper. You have your chaff clear and your single target DPS, but it feels uniquely difficult to pilot.
It's tough, and I think part of that is that each of those units are hyperscale units. They are powerful at level 2 and above with techs, and they're really weak at level 1 without techs. Both players skipping. Extended range sledge was an interesting offer there, but neither player is interested in playing sledges at this point, at this level. Stormcaller for Green Mountains to just kind of mirror. And that's their first real chaff clear outside of the Mustangs. Rooster takes 1 storm. Are you trying to start to float some cash? Is that the direction this goes, or is it... Yeah, we will, looks like. Nope, we're going to mass recruit, so it's more crawlers. Those will be the corner crawlers, I would assume. Yep, to move around the metal here, but you can see them. They're down in the corners. He's leaving room for the Rhino, potentially even for a Giant if there's a weird flank down there. But other than that, he's in standard positions.
I love what PB is doing. He round 1 mass recruit on quick supply spec, which is something I feel every time I've done it, I do it to like get this huge early tempo lead, and it feels kind of like a cheese in a way. And it was all chaff, right, from round 1 from Rooster, and then round 2 was Mass Recruit chaff again.
Right. It was
and this is one of the
storm, and it was 1 storm and 2 chaff, right? So he's got the storms to do 600 hit points of damage when they survive, and the chaff to make sure that they do survive. And we talked about Green Mountain having a huge amount of hit points. They're already below Rooster. They're down to 4,100. So he's done a lot of damage.
And one of the things that this, you were talking about it earlier with Marksman Mustang being a hyperscaling comp, one of the things that it's weak to is early mass crawler, especially if there's a level 2 crawler on the field.
And that's exactly what Rooster did. He bought 5 crawlers. It's not just chaff. It was specifically 5 crawlers. So he really knew the weakness of this particular comp. Now he's taking 3 Sabertooth, level 1 sabers. And Green Spirit has taken the 3 rhinos. Neither of the rhinos are down in the corner. They both sold out of one of these, so they're using them to fund, right? And I know it's hard to see from this angle, but the 2 Sabertooths are right in front of towers there for Rooster.
And there we see the Phoenix that usually complement this War Factory heavy build. I wonder if by round 4 will we see a War Factory come down. What do you think?
He's not floating, but he will be able to afford to the unlock when he sells a saber, and we know we're not going to have a unit drop that round, so it's 200 for the selling the saber, 800 to buy the unit outright. So yeah, I think you're right. I think that's exactly the direction he's going.
You know, you say he's not floating, but he's floating 50 credits, and that's efficient maintenance, baby.
It's true. It's very true. So that may be specifically counted for exactly that purpose.
I think so. I wouldn't put it past PB.
And the fun thing about this build is, if you haven't been watching him all tournament, Green Mountains does not see production War Factory coming right now. Right? There's just no
I was actually
bog standard build right now. This is the standardest of standard meta builds from Rooster.
Yeah, this is a very novel concept that we're seeing come out of Rooster. I was just going to say that I was going to mention last round that I think it's a mistake to go for the 3 rhinos here with the intention to sell them off, right? What ends up happening is you're now committed to 4 rounds of selling, and realistically, I don't want to be dealing with what Rooster's going to be pushing at me at round 8, because it's going to be like 3 War Factories with triple production techs, and we're probably just dead at that point, you know?
It's not War Factory yet. We throw down the 4th storm. Are we teching? Do we tech the Phoenix? Or tech fire for the storms as one of the preps? Because he's still showing bog standard, right? He's added the 4th Fang outside for that, kind of...
He is floating 800, so it will be 2 War Factories next round.
2 War Factory round 4. Yeesh.
It might even be 2 factories and a tech.
Yeesh. And it still looks bog standard. Right, unless you're counting the monies and you're like, hey, wait, where did the money go last round?
Yeah, if you're red here, alarm bells should be sounding in your head right now.
There's one thing I kind of like, and I get why it's not there, but I would love to see my opponent's money.
Oh, I kind of like the poker aspect of that, though. But I totally get what you're saying.
Just because it's one of those things that if we completely, played a complete open board, right? All the rules are common. We should be able to count this. You're spot on, right? There were two War Factories plus efficient maintenance there.
and it's like almost perfectly mathematical. He can sell off that Sabertooth and go for a 1/1 upgrade on, and then like I'm gonna be honest, if he does that, I love this build. I feel like that is like a very good timing to have 1/1 buy. 1/1 being both. Oh my God, he does it. Oh, it's perfect, man. It's beautiful what I'm watching right now.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
This feels.
We knew it was coming.
Sorry.
We knew it was coming, and it's still fun to watch. I can see why Rooster's enjoying it.
Oh yeah, it's hitting all the right timings in my head. It's, I mean, 2 war factories around 5, which is basically a round 4 war factory, and a round 5 war factory. Just sacrificing a little bit of tempo. It's super cool stuff. And yeah, huge tempo swing back in Rooster's favor here. Takes it on the chin last round, and throws it right back.
Had enough hit points to take it on the chin, right? You talked about it before. The last two times we've seen him, he's been holding on to enough hit points early on and putting the tempo pressure on. And we talked about it with the storms surviving. Now he does. All 4 storms survive, both war factories survive. That's 2,000 damage. It drops Green Mountains down to 2,200, and all of a sudden you're in a lot of trouble. Here comes the Phoenix production. There's still 800 available to buy the 3rd war factory. Right on cue. It's almost like we've worked together. Thank you, Rooster. And oh, by the way, we have EMP for the Phoenix to turn off any of the obvious answers. So, for example, you're going to get your Vulcan with Ignite or Scorching Flames. We're going to turn them off with EMP. And so Green Mountains goes for a pair of Overlords and a pair of Melters with range enhancement. Yeah, chat calling it out there. There is no acid deployment coming.
Oh.
Acid was the answer that Green Mountains needed. The mountains may be green, but we need some environmental damage here, sir.
Yeah, I wonder if we see fire colors coming out for PB here momentarily.
I don't think so, because I don't think you get another round.
Oh, yeah, you know what?
No, I might be wrong. There's just 2 of the factories have gone down. There will be another round. 590.
Almost barely not, though.
Both players skip. 1,300 available. That could be 2 levels plus War Factory number 4. Or War Factory number 4 plus text somewhere.
Might just be sledgehammers. Sledgehammers would do very well into red sport, I think. But nope, it's going to be shields. Oil is probably going to be in play from Rooster here. And there's the fireballers.
Firestorms. And level instead of 4th War Factory. So one of the things that I think it may be better if you're playing this build, it might be slightly more optimal to bring, especially when this was especially true when efficient maintenance only dropped reduced upkeep by 100. It was valuable to tech before you brought out the 2nd War Factory. So it would be like, round 1 would be War Factory efficient maintenance plus 1 tech, and round 2 would be the double War Factory drop. And that's kind of one of the changes that Rooster's done. He's kind of identified that efficient maintenance is saving enough, but I can actually afford to drop the 2 and start getting levels into them, start doing hit point damage to the health bar with them. So I'm really kind of on that for making this, putting the pressure on and ending it relatively quickly.
Yeah, one of the things that I definitely came across when I was playing around a lot with War Factory was that before I added on a 4th War Factory, I always wanted to have it triple tacked. And if we're doing the same thing but with 2, right? So before we add on a 3rd War Factory, we want to make sure our War Factories are double tacked. I think is actually maybe a good rule of thumb to approach this unit. Like, this unit does scale to the moon, but it also stunts your overall economic growth and into the late game, especially when we start to loan. So it's you need to take those techs.
Right, and the reason you take the techs early is so that you're paying less in upkeep overall. But again, you do the less overall damage. Green Mountains does appear to have stabilized this round, with dropping Rooster down to 1,400 hit points. We've got Ion Blast for both players. If you are Green Mountains, be aware of the things you actually need to turn off. They are not the War Factories. They will be either the Phoenix or the Perfect or the Stormcallers. And I would have rather seen this start a little bit further over, just to, in case this bubble wasn't perfectly positioned. Rooster has positioned it perfectly, but the further over you've got it, the longer you have it. You know, if this bubble were just here, you'd be burning through bubble and then reaching Stormcallers. So, between the shields,
do we see a 3rd tech, you think?
I would expect between the shields and the ion beam, he's spent down to the point that he doesn't have 800 left.
We do,
and it's going to be a battle tech. It's range, so plus 40 range. That gives them 155 meter range, which is more than the Phoenix have. It's 20 more than the Phoenix. So your Phoenix are actually going to get out in front and act as tanks. He's also sold one of the factories to move it to the other side, just kind of ensuring, I think, that it's just out of the beam. And
yeah, that was my read on it too.
That is where that beam is going to wind up. But look how that beam is really nice for hitting those Phoenix as well. So, really well positioned, I think.
I think the other move with making the War Factory go right is that there is just less melting points over here. So we might be able to win this side harder, get more productions out, and, or to scale a bit harder.
Now, here's an interesting one. Way earlier in this cast, Ms. Diana asked if anti-air wasps would have been the right answer. On that board, they were not. On this board, they were. That distracted those Phoenix, so they were doing single target damage to wasps instead of to all of the key units. Of course, the War Factories can't clear air chaff, so Rooster's bid to win the tournament denied. It was a really, really good counterplay from Green Mountains, and coming up with it on the fly into the face of this board, and we've seen this board fluster some very good players, right? Rooster ran this really well all tournament long. Didn't actually have a good answer to wasps. You saw you saw Diana thought of it, Green Mountains thought of it here, and deservedly adds Vanguard Tournament Asia Champion to their mini tournament championship from earlier in the week. Back-to-back Asian tournament championships for Green Mountain, and that puts them halfway to qualifying for the Launch Clash tournament, the 8th and final slot that's open. Well played, Green Mountains. Congratulations to Green Mountains, our tournament champion, RoosterPB, who took his War Factory build all the way to 2nd place, but lost out in the finals. It was a really fun one to watch. Single True is 3rd, Starcraft Panda, or Death is the Order, 4th, B-Man on his alt Fish Station Sharkbird Vegetable B is 5th. You've got, the longer the name, the more handsome it is, in 6th, Hawk in Space 7th, I Am the Master and You Are the Servant 8th, Old Bandit Godog 9th, and Play Archer 10th. Congratulations to everybody in the top 10. Well played, especially to Green Mountains. Very nicely done. We'll show, as is our tradition, we'll show 11th through 20th, 21 through 30, even down to 40th or so. For those getting your name in lights, if you had your best ever performance, you deserve a little bit of recognition for it. And Green Mountains, of course, is halfway to qualifying for that Launch Clash tournament, but nobody took that 8th and final slot here. That 8th and final slot will still be open in Europe. We'll be back for that. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you guys watching.